K tonight, making a spot start. And we've got a great show coming up for you. Baseball is in the home stretch. We've got about less than a month to go. We've already had some big injuries. We've already had Zach Wheeler out. What does that mean? Aiden Baldy will now be able to take the trainer. What does that mean going forward? We're going to talk, of course, from the call up on Monday. What's that? Now we're going to create players to the 40s and a good thing for sports. In the last couple of years, we'll dive into that. Baseball has released next year's schedule. We'll get into the highlights and talk about it. It's a little bit too early to release next year's schedule. Why there's no conference circumstance around it towards the NFL. The only World Series has wrapped up. Chinese Taipei, your winners. We'll recap that. We'll get you a live update for tonight. A lot of big series this last week. We'll give you a few top who's not. Or as much as series to watch. And of course, it happens to be in baseball history. I'm going to give you a hint on what we're going to highlight today. A lot of walk. So stay right here. Coming up next, Bullpen, the next insider Pirates is joining us tonight. On the way, hopefully you join us. Bullpen, what's next tonight? Radio Your Direction. And thank you once again for tuning in with me, the Bullpen Bulletin here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Ricky K in the house with you. Excited to be talking some baseball this fine evening. Of course, our partners in crime, Mike Patt, Alden K, not here this evening. So you get me, spot start, and a little bit of fun along the way. It's hard to believe that we're only a month away from the postseason. We've gone along this big journey together since February, and we're already in the home stretch of the year. So it's a lot of fun. Be sure to follow us on X, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, at IE Sports Radio. Go to iesportsradio.com. Check out more info on all of our shows throughout the week. We just had a Second and Scheming on with Big Mike. Be sure to check that out as well. Be sure to follow us on X at BP Bulletin _ISR. You can follow me on X at Rickedator555, tweeting all the Yankee stuff. Yankees in action sign against the Nationals. And if you have any thoughts on anything in baseball throughout the show, comment on YouTube, comment on Twitch, comment on X. I'm always happy to hear from you. Since it's just me tonight, you're going to be driving the show as well. And again, we'll have Ralph Calise on in about 20 minutes or so. So we'll have at least some guests tonight, but you're going to be driving the show tonight. So be sure to send in your thoughts on these next couple of series. So we'll take a quick time out. We'll hear from the folks over at Planet Jerky, and we'll get right into baseball talk right after this. You're listening to the Bullpen Bulletin on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
IE Sports Radio fans, this show is brought to you by Planet Jerky Premium Brisket Beef Jerky. Planet Jerky is the official jerky of the 2022 California League champion Lake Elsinore Storm, single-A affiliate of the San Diego Padres. This all-brisket jerky has gluten-free options, contains no MSG, no sodium nitrate, is low in sugar, and high in protein. Go to their website at planetjerky.net and follow them on Instagram at Planet Jerky. Planet Jerky, the jerky that's on a whole other planet.
And a special thanks to Planet Jerky Premium Brisket Beef Jerky. Great jerky to have as you're watching baseball each and every evening, whether you're watching your favorite team or watching the games of the week. And again, we'll have Ralph on at 9:30, but he is here in the chat. Happy to have Ralph aboard. Ricky K here with you in the Bullpen Bulletin on iSports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. So as Mike Patt will usually do, we'll dive into some key headlines first. And to me, the big headline, at least on the field for baseball, is a lot of key injuries to top pitchers. You get to that point in the year where guys are throwing a lot of innings and things tend to break down. And there are two big injuries, I think, from a starting pitching perspective that really affect the playoff race in general. One is Zach Wheeler. Zach Wheeler was looking like he had a chance to be the Cy Young Award winner. Maybe he wasn't going to be. I don't think he was the favorite, but he's always seems to be up there each and every season. And this weekend, he was ruled out for the rest of the season with venous thoracic outlet syndrome. Now, we've seen pitchers have thoracic outlet syndrome in the past. Some are usually big deal. Some aren't. This one sounds like it's about 6 to 8 months. So you would think we'll see Zach Wheeler next year. Remember, he had said in the past that the next couple of years he could be looking at retirement. So who knows how long we'll still see Zach Wheeler pitch and what effectiveness he'll be pitching. So hopefully he gets back soon. But what does that mean for the Philadelphia Phillies? Well, I think you look at Christopher Sanchez right now has established himself as the ace of the team. So I don't really know if they're going to miss that much. What you miss in Wheeler is getting more in October. Zach Wheeler has really established himself as one of the best postseason pitchers over the last 10, 15 years. Like every time the Phillies needed a big game from Zach Wheeler in the playoffs, he's delivered. Can Christopher Sanchez be that? I'm not so sure. We saw last night at Citi Field against the Mets, didn't have the best performance, and that's the kind of stage, even though the Phillies have a significant lead in the NL East, you kind of want to see him have that kind of big game, especially after an injury to your star pitcher. We'll see if he steps up and takes his game another level. Ranger Suarez, can he be that guy that gives them innings this time in the playoffs? As opposed to giving you 3 or 4, as we've seen in past years, where he'll do just enough to get you one time, two times through the order, and then come out. He's got to get his game another level. They're going to rely on more consistency from Jesus Luzardo. What does that mean for Aaron Nola? Aaron Nola's had a down year, a lot of injuries, a lot of inconsistency. Can Aaron Nola find his old form? I think the big wild card here, remember, they gave up Mick Abel in the trade for Durant, is Andrew Painter. Do the Phillies call up Andrew Painter when the rosters expand next week? And is Andrew Painter part of the team's postseason plans? I would think he is. I would think he should be. Because you look at this team right now, I like this rotation, but Painter would bring it to a different level because it's that unknown. Where I want to see what the Phillies are at full strength, because Dave Dombrowski has always built a team that's going to win a World Series. And if you don't believe the Phillies are the favorite in the National League, they're probably the second favorite, I would say. Does the Wheeler injury ruin their chances to the World Series? I don't think it ruins it. I think it diminishes it. But for right now, that's just, I think to me, it's more of a significance on Wheeler than it is the Phillies. Because the Phillies, I think, will have enough to get through. The bigger injury around baseball is what happened with the Rangers. Nathan Eovaldi out for the rest of the season with a torn rotator cuff. And this is big because you look at Eovaldi's season, he was having a Cy Young caliber year. At 35 years old, 11-3, 1.73 ERA, 129 strikeouts over 130 innings. This is one of his more consistent seasons. And remember, this is a guy who's won a couple World Series in his career. And now he's done. And I think you look at the Rangers right now, a team that was fully in postseason contention about a month ago. And they have absolutely fallen off a cliff. They're a game under 500. Now, they're only 5.5 back. But now you take Eovaldi out of that rotation. You still have DeGrom. You still have Merrill Kelly. What is Jack Leiter? I think we're going to see. But Texas right now, falling further behind the Mariners. You look at the Rangers' schedule the rest of the way. They got the A's coming up this weekend. Their September is Arizona on the road, home to Houston, home to Milwaukee, at the Mets, at Houston, at Marlins, home to Twins, at Cleveland. So you're looking at 6 games with the Astros, 3 games with the Mets. Their schedule is favorable to at least stay in it. But Eovaldi losing that ace of your staff as you're trying to get back in the mix. They don't play Seattle anymore. They don't play the Yankees anymore. They don't play the Red Sox anymore. So that's kind of going to limit their chances of getting closer to the race by gaining 2 games in one day. But you feel for Eovaldi, it's now become a 2-horse race in the American League, I think, for Cy Young between Garrett Crochet and Tarik Skubal. I think Skubal's probably the favorite. Crochet helped his case over the weekend. We'll get into the Red Sox a little bit later and their statement series against the Yankees, because I thought they put on an absolute clinic in the Bronx, and they're starting to find their form. And Craig Breslow is making people look stupid because the moves the Red Sox didn't make, he got criticized for, and the Red Sox have really picked up their game over the last few weeks. But 2 big injuries, Wheeler, Eovaldi. I think the Phillies will be fine. I think the Rangers, their season kind of takes a little bit of a hit with the injury to Eovaldi. In terms of on the field, we talked about Major League Baseball releasing its 2026 schedule. This is something baseball used to do like in September. Now we're getting a little bit earlier. Now, when we notice with football, they build a whole primetime special around the schedule because people are trying to figure out when to plan their road trips, when to when are they going to play their other teams that they want to see, stuff like that. I think baseball should do that. I don't know why, the end of November, they can't put out the schedule, have a big to-do about it and things like that. That's something I think they could work on from a marketing perspective, but there are some key things to look at with next year's schedule. The season's going to start March 25th. That's a Wednesday. It's probably the earliest opening day that we can remember. And keep in mind, we have the World Baseball Classic next year as well. So you get the WBC, and then a couple weeks later, you get back to the baseball again. So this offseason is going to be a lot shorter than you think. So the season will have one standalone game. That is the Yankees at the Giants. Aaron Judge going to San Francisco. Yankees have played the Giants on opening day in the past. Of course, that was in the Bronx a couple of years ago. That should be a lot of fun. And March 26th, earliest opening day in baseball history, where everybody is going to play, which is great. We have rivalry weekend, May 15th through 17th. That's when you get your Cubs, White Sox, your Yankees, Mets, your Dodgers, Angels. I kind of like that there's a rivalry weekend thrown in. We see it with college football. We see it in college basketball sometimes. I think you do need, you have the Players Weekend in August, you get a rivalry weekend going. It's always great. You can hype that up. So I like that. The A's are going to play 6 games next year at the AAA Las Vegas Stadium. Remember, the A's will move to Vegas in a couple of years. So they will play the Brewers and the Rockies on a 6-game homestand beginning on June 8th. Now, I don't know how that's going to go, but considering Sacramento has sometime been a bandbox for teams, you would have to think that Vegas is going to be a bandbox for some of these teams at some point. So that is something to monitor. And then what is, I think, historic and very important, I think baseball needs to adopt this going forward. The Yankees and the Mets will play on September 11th next year. They will play at Yankee Stadium. And to put that in perspective, next year is the 25th anniversary of the 9/11 attacks. And I think baseball needs to have the Yankees and Mets play on September 11th every year. We've seen it happen before, especially at Citi Field. I think it was a couple years ago, and the scene was totally different from any baseball scene that we've seen in a while. These teams get it. You get the first responders hats and stuff like that. And it's just a moment for New Yorkers to come together, regardless of which New York team you root for. So I think, to me, I think it's important that you keep the schedule and you go from there. So I think that's a highlight that has to stay. But again, I look at the baseball schedule, and to me, when I look at it, I think about what ballparks do I want to see? Like, from a Yankees perspective, like, okay, when are the Yankees going to Wrigley Field? I know that's now the end of July. Like, maybe I plan to trip out to Chicago because the Yankees are playing a whole week in Chicago. When do the Yankees go to Kansas City if you're looking to see Kauffman Stadium? When are they going to, if you look at National League ballparks, next year they will go to Milwaukee. Maybe you want to take a trip out to Milwaukee, especially now you're doing that once every 2 years. So it brings a little bit something different to the table. So I love the fact that you have a 2026 schedule release. I just wish it was a little early, a little bit later. I would love to see it more in November as opposed to August. I think it's a little bit too early to be looking at next year, so we're still in this year. Speaking of this year, the next big milestone on the list is roster expansion. Starting Sunday, every baseball team is going to have 28 players on the roster. Now, remember the old days, you would have 40 players on the roster, but teams used to take advantage of that and they used to call up 12 pitchers at a time. And you'd see basically a full bench of bullpen guys. Remember the Phillies like years ago had like a whole like 20 players in the bullpen, it felt like. And I think when you look at roster expansion, I like that it's 28. I kind of wish it was like 30-something guys, because I do think there's value in having a top prospect come up, even if it's just on the bench. Like we've seen in the past. I know you guys are going to hate if I keep throwing New York references out there, and I'm trying to do a little bit different. Derek Jeter got a chance to be on the 95 postseason roster. Didn't really play, but he got to have the experience of being on the postseason roster, and it led to great things for him in 96 and beyond. There's value to being up and getting the feel of the playoffs. I also kind of like having 30 guys because maybe I bring in that specialty pinch runner in some of these games. There are guys like one player I could think of was Terrence Gore. Always seemed to have a spot because he could be a pinch runner. I'm trying to think, there's a couple other players that come to mind for me on that list. Like your team always would want them because they were going to run in a big spot. I think maybe like a Quentin Berry type, I think was another one. They're all the players that you have. Now you will get top guys, and I think this is important because teams can get aggressive by calling top players up. Reason being, since a player is going to have less than 45 days of service time, they are still eligible for Rookie of the Year next year. What does that mean? If your player wins Rookie of the Year next year, it could lead you to getting an extra draft pick. And teams value that tremendously. So the example I'll give now with the Mets, keep it in New York, but I'll go with the other team in Queens. Nolan McLean has been up the last couple of starts and has actually looked pretty good. He'll pitch tomorrow against Philadelphia. But the big news today for the Mets was they called up their top prospect, Jonah Tong, who was going to pitch Friday against the Marlins. And Jonah Tong, if you haven't seen this guy, we talked about him a little bit earlier this year in our minor league spotlight. He has dominated every level he's been at. Double-A Binghamton, he was great. He's only pitched a couple times at Triple-A Syracuse. He was really good there. This guy is ready. And I applaud David Stearns because the Mets are actually being aggressive. They're going for it. And they realize that their young kids can really help this team. The Mets didn't make any starting pitching moves at the deadline, I think in part because they knew what McLean could be. They knew what Tong could be. They knew what Brandon Sproat potentially can be. And maybe Sproat comes in out of the bullpen down the stretch opposed to being a starter. But now they're going to go to 6 guys in that rotation. Tong is going to be a big help. And it's going to be a big boost to Citi Field too. Labor Day weekend, U.S. Open in town. And now you have your potential, I don't know if he's going to be an ace, but he's a potential frontline guy for this team that I absolutely think could help at this level. So always keep an eye on that top prospect list. Maybe it's not your top prospect. Maybe it's you get a guy that can come up, make an impact, or he's not just, if you're a fan base of a team that's not a contender, somebody comes up, auditions for a spot next year. I mean, September has proven that you don't have to be a contender to be a spoiler. You can be a bad team. You look at the schedule, and all of a sudden, you're the one that ends up ruining the season of somebody else. The team I have in mind for that, I'm going to bring it up in who's hot and who's not a little bit later, where young players can kind of be that focal point that you want to watch going into your team's 2026 season, because it can go a long way in really determining things. And lastly, before we go to our next timeout, Little League World Series has come and gone in Williamsport. Championship over the weekend, and congratulations to Chinese Taipei for winning the Little League World Series. They were by far the best team. They were dominating throughout. And to me, I think you look at this Chinese Taipei team, their pitching was absolutely phenomenal. I thought they did a really good job of just shutting teams down. They took on Las Vegas, Nevada in the championship, ended up winning that game by a final 7-0. Again, their pitching was just way too good. Fairfield, Connecticut won the third place game. On Sunday, they beat Aruba 4-2. Some very good championship games. The Aruba Chinese Taipei game was a great Saturday championship game. Taipei won 1-0. But to not allow a run in the International Championship and the U.S. Championship speaks to how dominant. Won its first title for Chinese Taipei in a long time. This is a country that is really rich in baseball. That you could tell their fundamentals were extremely good. And it's a well-coached ball club. You got to love that. But props to the U.S. champs, the kids from Nevada. They beat Connecticut, won the rematch. Remember, Connecticut beat them earlier in the tournament. But Nevada ended up winning 8-2 and got through the losers bracket or the consolation bracket to get to the championship. So, again, we talked about it the last couple of weeks. The Little League World Series is fantastic. If it's not, it's got to be on your bucket list going forward to me, because I think it's the true thing for a baseball fan, because it brings you back to your youth. You never know who you're going to see. You never know how many major leaguers you just saw play. I told the story last week on the show when Staten Island, New York went to the Little League World Series many years ago. I went with the team, some of the team's family members, for the day in Williamsport for one of the pool games. I saw them play a team in Phoenix, Arizona. The Phoenix, Arizona team had two players that went on to be major leaguers, at least that I remember. Scott Kingery, remember formerly of the Phillies, a guy by the name of Cody Bellinger. So you really never know who you're going to see. I have an autograph program of a kid on the Georgia team that ended up hitting the game-winning home run against Japan to win the championship. It wasn't a walk-off. I know Warner Robins had a walk-off years ago, but it was one of those like go-ahead homers in the third or fourth inning. So again, you never know what you're going to come across, and the international competition is great. The U.S. competition is great, and it's just a good way to just remember why you love the game, because we can get into all the time where baseball, the controversies, where people talk about the umpires and talk about all the stuff that's wrong with the game. Little League World Series gives you a chance to see what's right with the game and how these kids just enjoy it, because this could be, for some of them, the best moment of their athletic lives. And I think it's a really fun thing. So be sure, if you get a chance next year and future years, get a chance to go out to Williamsport. Definitely take the opportunity to do that. They also announced the Field of Dreams game next year, which is going to be the Phillies and the Twins. That's going to be a lot of fun. I don't know if the Field of Dreams game needs to happen every year. That wasn't happening this year, so it's good maybe it's every other year, because it keeps kind of the uniqueness of it. I do wish it was more rivalry games. Like we saw Cubs-Reds a couple years ago. I think it would be good to have a divisional game in there. It was Yankees-White Sox another time. Maybe it's just teams like in the Midwest that are like around the Iowa area that keep it kind of local. But I always love those unique games, like we kind of the Bristol racetrack game. Just the logistics of that were just weird. So we'll take one more time out. We hear from the folks at Vital Apparel. We'll give you our live score update, and then Ralph Calise is going to join me for the rest of the show to have some fun. You're listening to the Bullpen Bulletin and iSports Radio, your direct feed for all the sports. We'll be right back in just a minute.
Rise and shine. It's 4 a.m. The stars are still out. The sun is beneath the horizon, but it's time to punch in and go to work. The comfort of your warm-ups turns into the grinding out of your reps as the clinking and the clanking of the plates create a symphony of euphoria. There's no other feeling like it. Earn it, burn it, and take what's yours. IE Sports Radio has proudly partnered with Vital Apparel, a brand that not only fits great, but also promotes and donates to mental health research. Use our code IESR to get 15% off their comfortable and inspiring gym wear and help them on their amazing journey to support mental health. Go hard, take part in your iron therapy, and be strong. Because when your mental health is as strong as you are, there's no telling how far you'll go.
And welcome back to the Bullpen Bulletin here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all of the sports. Ricky K back with you again. Support Vital Apparel, great cause, mental health research, and 15% of your purchase gets taken off when you use the code IESR. So be sure to check out Vital Apparel today. Reminder to follow us on X, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube. Like and subscribe at IE Sports Radio. And if you want to comment throughout the show, remember, just me tonight. I got the spot start, so send your comments my way, either YouTube, Twitch, or X. Be happy to hear from you. Any thoughts on baseball? If you got a favorite team you want to chime in with your thoughts on, I'd love to hear it. So it's time for our live score update. We'll take you around the league on this Tuesday and what's going on. We do have some finals, and we'll dive into that first. The Red Sox get the win over the Orioles 5-0. Trevor Story hits his 200th career home run. The story of this one was Lucas Giolito. He was excellent. 8 shutout innings, 4 hits, a walk, and 8 strikeouts in this one. Kyle Bradish made his return for the Orioles. Pitched well. He struck out 10. 6 innings, 2 runs on 4 hits, but not enough for the Orioles to get the win. So that's going to make Brian Francione very happy. He's here saying, so weird, Sox close against the Cubs. They release it way too early. Yeah, the Red Sox are at home against the Cubs to end the year. It is a really weird ending. I guess I like it with football where, like, if the teams you end with divisional teams, I don't know how you can make that work in baseball. It's very challenging, but it is a weird but unique end to the season for sure. Guardians end up beating the Rays 3-0. Guardians score all 3 of their runs in the first inning. RBIs from Kyle Manzardo, Bo Naylor, and Brian Rocchio. Parker Messick, 7 shutout innings. He struck out 6. And picked up his first win of the year. That was a much-needed win for Cleveland. We'll get into them a little bit later, but they desperately need a win to stay in this playoff race. Other games in action right now, the Braves are blowing out the Marlins 11-2. That is in the bottom of the 9th inning, so Atlanta should be getting the win there. 2 home runs tonight for Ozzie Albies. Just a rough night at the mound for Sandy Alcantara for the Marlins. Even though he actually pitched pretty well. 7 innings, 2 runs, 3 hits, walked 2, struck out 7. Braves have scored 9 runs in the 9th inning. So they've really broken that game open in a big way. Blue Jays lead the Twins 4-3. That game is in the top half of the 8th inning. Toronto got out to an early 3-0 lead. Minnesota has tried to rally in that one. George Springer has 2 home runs tonight. He's got 24 on the year. Chris Bassett, 1 out shy of a quality start, but he struck out 6 and walked 3. White Sox, we mentioned, they're playing spoiler. And they're making life difficult for the Royals. They lead 4-0 right now in the 8th inning. Royals only have 1 hit so far in this one. Colson Montgomery, we'll dive into him a little bit later. He went deep again. Martin Perez, 7 strong innings. He struck out 5. His ERA is 2.02 on the year. So the White Sox trying to win the first 2 against Kansas City. Mets with 5 runs in the bottom of the 5th inning. They lead the Phillies 5-3. If the Mets win tonight, they cut that division lead to 5. So the Mets trying to creep their way back into that one. Pete Alonso with 2 more RBIs. He's got 3 hits on the night, 105 ribbies now on the year. And the bullpen picking it up for Sean Manaea. Didn't get out of the 5th inning, but he did strike out 8. So progress for Sean Manaea for sure. Pirates get out to a 7-0 lead before the bottom of the 2nd inning. They lead St. Louis 8-2 in the bottom of the 6th. Henry Davis, a home run in that one. Mitch Keller has 9 strikeouts or 5 1/3. Big news out of that one, Wilson Contreras. They didn't get a chance to watch last night. He got suspended for 6 games. Threw a like bubble gum onto the field. Very weird situation out in St. Louis. Really lost his cool. And that is one, if you get a chance, probably go to YouTube and see what happened with that last night. Brewers lead the Diamondbacks 6-3. That is after 5 innings there. Milwaukee trying to continue to hold off the Cubs because the Cubs have cut that lead tremendously. William Contreras with a 2-run shot, his 15th of the year. Jacob Mizorowski, 3 runs, 4 hits. He struck out 10 over 5 innings, and his night is done. Rangers lead the Angels 6-0. That game is in the 5th inning. Texas desperately needs a win in that game. Patrick Corbin, 5 shutout innings so far. Kyle Higashioka, a home run off of Yusei Kikuchi. Rockies lead the Astros 6-1. That game in the top of the 5th inning. Hunter Brown, just a rough night for him. Hunter Goodman, his 26th home run of the year, a 2-run shot in the 3rd for Colorado. And the Yankees lead the Nationals 5-1. That game is in the bottom half of the 7th. Giancarlo Stanton had a bases-clearing double in the 3rd inning, and then he hit a solo homer, a 2-run homer in the 6th, his 17th of the year. Stanton, if you haven't gotten a chance to watch the Yankees as much, he's been their best hitter this month. He's got an OPS, I think, of like over 1.2 with men scoring position. And when he's healthy, this Yankee team takes a completely different level. And when he plays the field, he's a different caliber player as well. He could be the definitely difference maker as Judge works his way back. Hopefully he'll get to be thrown to bases and play in the outfield again soon. Luis Gil had 4 walks in 5 innings tonight for the Yankees, but it looks like they should be able to hang on. If they do, they'll win their 3rd in a row. Games in action later tonight, Padres and Mariners. It is Luis Castillo for Seattle against Dylan Cease for San Diego. Those 2 teams play for the Eddie Vedder Cup. I didn't know that was a thing until a couple of days ago. And Eddie Vedder, the lead guy at Pearl Jam, is more of a Cubs guy. But nevertheless, it's a cool trophy. It's fun. That should be interesting. Cubs and Giants will get going out in San Francisco. Justin Verlander starts for the Giants against Matthew Boyd for the Cubs. Tigers are at the A's later tonight in Sacramento. It is Charlie Morton against Tomas Bito. And finally, the Reds and the Dodgers. That's a really big series. Cincinnati's 2.5 back for that last wild card spot. Manel. Nick Martinez against Clayton Kershaw. Dodgers end up getting the win last night. So that should look around the major leagues on this Tuesday. And join me right now to talk about a couple of teams that are on the rise, some series to watch, and we'll have some fun to talk some history. He's our Pirates insider. He's our Mets insider. Ralph Calise is in the house. Ralph, how are you, my friend?
Hey, Ricky K. How are you, sir? How is everything? Thanks for having me on.
I'm happy to have you. Again, we were saying earlier how quick the season goes. It's like back in February, it feels like yesterday that Mike and Alden and I were starting this show, and now we only have like 5 weeks left in the regular season. It's really crazy how time can fly during the baseball season.
Yeah, it's went fast, and I think this is my I want to say my 3rd time on the show filling in for, I think I filled in for you once and Alden once. And now I'm on with you filling in for Mike and Alden. And I thank you for keeping me in mind and having me on.
So we're going to call Ralph, like, if for those who aren't sure, like, this probably will date me as a reference. Ralph is like the Lenny Harris of this show. Now, Lenny Harris, and for those who don't know, like, who the hell is Ricky talking about? Lenny Harris was a really reliable pinch hitter in like the late 90s, early 2000s. Like, I remember him with the Mets. I think it was like early 2000s or so. Like, that's the guy who always seemed to come up late in the game and would always seem to get a big hit. Like, the other name I thought of, Ralph, would maybe like you could be like the Julio Franco of this show.
I like the Lenny Harris comparison because I remember him when he played for the Mets. I remember when he played for the Mets, and he did come up all the time. Well, how about this? Let's even go further back. Being that I'm a Met fan, and you're the New York guy. How about Rusty Staub? Anybody out there remember Rusty Staub? Lagrange. There you go. You know who he is. But no, that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. Just an update on the Met game because you said I was a Met insider. Rogers came in the 7th. And he retired Schwarber, Harper, and Real Muto on 7 pitches. So they're in the bottom of the 7th now. Still 5-3.
Yeah, I think we could touch on this series a little bit before we dive into the who's hot and who's not that we usually do during the week. I think this is big for the Mets. If they can hang on and get this win, they get McLean tomorrow with a chance to sweep, and all of a sudden, all the doom and gloom with the Mets, they would only be 4 back in the division. And as bad as the Mets were playing, the problem I have, Ralph, is again, you look at the wild card. We can do a wild card standings update later on. it's just the Reds. It's not like there's like a billion teams chasing the Mets. You're really just watching the Red scores every night at this point because it's hard to believe that Arizona is going to catch up. It's hard to believe St. Louis is going to catch up. They're under 500. The Mets and Reds are the only teams in that third, fourth wild cards that are over 500 in the National League. So the Mets could be and they'll be fine. But what I said at the top, and I'm sure you heard, I love David Stearns is getting aggressive and using McLean. And McLean's been a jolt. And I don't doubt that even maybe if Jonah Tong isn't what he was at the minors, he's going to be a jolt for this team because the Met players are seeing that this front office is still putting faith in this group and trying to make aggressive moves with players that are in the system. Like, I wouldn't be shocked if Jet Williams is up by the end of next week and if they continue to add more of that elite talent from the system in here.
Yeah, I think you hit it right on the head at when you started at the beginning, because I did a video for the Mets there on IE Sports Radio, and I was screaming that they needed to get starting pitching at the trade deadline. I mean, they needed bullpen help, which they did, and they acquired Cedric Mullins. They needed another bat. Okay, but I was screaming that they needed starting pitching, and I think what you said at the beginning there, that maybe David Stearns had it in mind that he was going to bring up McClellan, bring up Tong, and those would be like his trade deadline moves for the bring ups for September. And I just thought that was an excellent point, and it came true. I'm real excited. I'm actually real excited to see this kid McClellan pitch tomorrow versus the Phillies if they win tonight, and that's going to be a big game. And then I'm really psyched to see this kid Tong pitch, because they were flashing stats on him in the minors earlier in the game. And one of the stats, I mean, it was AA and AAA, is 18 out of his 22 starts in the minors, he's only allowed 1 run or fewer. So that's pretty insane. But I thought that was a excellent point that you made about the pitching, and that's probably what they were thinking. And tonight they started the rally with a hits batsman, and the next thing you know, after Lazaro was pitching a great game, he hit Torrens, the 9th hitter, and they went 10 batters later and they scored 5 runs. And it's just funny because the announcers mentioned what's going on with these hits batsmen that starts innings, because that's how the Mets lost Sunday versus Atlanta. They were winning 2-0, and the batter got hit in the foot, and the Braves went on to score 4 runs, and they lost 4-3. So, well, it's just September. It's getting close to September. These are the games. And your fact about saying that, the only team that they really have to worry about is the Reds, it's true, because they're 2.5 games ahead of them now. They do have 3 games coming up against them, I think next week on the road. So that'll be a big series. And I mean, all these games they're going to be playing the next week are going to be big. It's that time of year. I mean, can they catch the Padres or the Cubs for the second or the first spot? I mean, there's always a chance. You never know what could happen. But right now, I think they just have their eyes on staying in the playoff spot, which another good stat that came out, they have not been out of a playoff spot since April. I think they said it was 22nd. So they've either been in first place, a wild card spot, the last wild card spot, since April 22nd. So, like you said, that just goes to show you the Reds really are their only competition at this point.
That's what we're saying with New York teams. Like you and I have talked all year, and I promise, guys, we're going to get off the New York topics in a second. Like, I'll go to the other team across town. The Yankees have been playing really bad against good teams. Like, we saw them lose 3 out of 4 to the Red Sox and look embarrassing over the weekend. And I can talk about how bad the Yankees are against these good teams, but if the Royals lose tonight and the Yankees win, they're up 6 on the loss column on Kansas City for a playoff spot. Like, the Yankees are, as long as they don't collapse and burn, are going to be in the postseason. So it's just a matter, like, you can have a team be bad and they can still be, they're not the worst team since sliced bread. Like, they're actually a team that can get to the playoffs. It's a matter of, like, when we look at New York teams, it's okay. They're bad from the standpoint they're not going to do anything in the playoffs. And we're going to see. Like, I think that's going to be the thing, that you can be bad in the regular season, get hot in the postseason. We don't think that, but it's just a constant reminder of like, yeah, your team can be doom and gloom, but look around the league. It's very mediocre. Like right now, the American League has 7 teams with a winning record. The National League has also 7 teams with a winning record. So it's only half the league with a winning record. That's kind of not good for baseball. I think that only 14 teams have an over 500 record this late in the season.
Don't sound good neither.
It's the haves and have-nots. And I know people talk about parity, but parity, I want to see more competitive races. The fact that, yes, competitive division races for sure. And again, we'll do a standings update at the end of the show. But the fact that we don't have like these big wild card races this late in the year, that's going to hurt the sport when we get to late September, because you want more teams in the mix and maybe somebody gets hot. But for right now, I mean, I don't see the Cardinals getting on a roll or the Diamondbacks getting on a roll, or we'll get to the American League in a little bit, but I don't see like, is KC going to get on a roll? Is Cleveland going to get on a roll? I don't know. I think that's an issue with the sport, but that's a whole other topic for another time. But for right now, let's look at who's hot and who's not. That's our look at different teams or different players around the league. So, Ralph, let's start positive. Who's hot in your mind?
Who's hot in my mind? All right. Well, one is obvious, and one may seem like a little oddball, but I'll start with the obvious, and it's got to be Cal Raleigh from Seattle. I mean, he hit his 50th home run last night, and now there's talk saying that is he going to break Judge's record? I mean, they're putting a lot on this guy's plate, but he's responded actually. I mean, you know, he's at 50 now, and will he have a chance to catch Judge? I think he does. I think he does. I think he's actually going to challenge Judge for the MVP. I think we spoke about that once before too. Another guy who I feel is hot, and you could probably tell by the shirt that I'm wearing where I'm going. And you mentioned it at the beginning of the show when you said that about the Phillies losing Zach Wheeler. And then you mentioned a little bit that he was, you know, how far in the running was for the Cy Young. I was just reading an article while you were talking about that, and they're saying now that they believe that Skeens has the clear path to the Cy Young, being that he got hurt because he really was the only competition for Paul Skeens. And this guy has just been lights out his past 3 starts. He did have a bump in the road. I'm sorry, he did have a bump in the road against the Brewers. But the 2 starts after that, I think he's thrown 13 shutout innings, and he's only given up 2 runs. So he's very hot he's very hot right now, and he's putting his foot down for his place for that Cy Young award. So that's who I have right off the bat. Who's hot? Who's not? I don't really. I'm trying to think of someone that comes. Oh, you know who else is hot? You mentioned him before, Giancarlo Stanton. I remember we talked one time about like what we were looking forward to in the second half, and I mentioned to you about pitches coming off the disabled list. Man, I must have missed Stanton, because since he's come off the disabled list, like you said, he's been the Yankees leader. He's been awesome. I mean, every time I put the Yankees on, he's doing something to you know, put them in a lead, or he's hitting a home run. And yeah, he's a big clog in that Yankees lineup. Getting back to who's not. I'm trying to think. Nothing is coming to my head right off the top. That one I'd have to think about. But
all right,
maybe
so let's think about it a little bit.
Yeah.
I'll go with the who's hot, and I'll start the who's not. So who's hot for me? I'm gonna go into my clothes drawer. I'm gonna pick out a pair of socks. So one, I'm gonna go with the White Sox. Now the White Sox have a chance tonight to win 4 in a row. Now I know that they're still the worst team in the American League, but a player that's really hot is the guy I brought up in the score update. Colson Montgomery is like their top young player. He's got 14 home runs in 47 games. And you're talking about a White Sox team that's trying to build a future, and we rip on the White Sox all the time. We tease with Adam Karnick, my new co-host, starting next week on the opening series. But Montgomery has been pretty good as shortstop. He's got an 844 OPS. He's having a really good month. And you look at this White Sox team, and you look at a guy like Kyle Teal behind the plate. Since coming up, Teal is hitting 290 with an OPS near 800. You look at Edgar Caro, we've seen get some love, hitting 284, switch hitter. He's done some good things. So the White Sox, they have a good foundation of what they want to do. And I think they could be a spoiler type team. We haven't really seen this team really get any pitching at some point, but I'm going to give the White Sox some love because they're really going to mess with the Royals a little bit, especially with Kansas City. This was their stretch they needed to kind of stay really close to the Yankees and the Mariners, and they just haven't been able to do that. So I'm going to give some love to the White Sox for sure. We don't get to talk about good things about them, so got to give them at least some love. And then we go back with the Red Sox. And I know it pains me to do this, and Brian's going to probably have some fun at my expense. The Red Sox own the Yankees over the weekend. Alex Cora even made the comments that Yankee Stadium is fun to play in. That should make Yankee fans cringe that Alex Cora even said that. And especially should make Aaron Boone cringe because that's his best friend saying that. So clearly there's no love lost between the two. And the Red Sox did everything right. Their offense, even though they didn't hit Thursday at men's scoring position, still found a way to contribute. Garrett Crochet was dominant Saturday. Brian Bayo owns the Yankees. He was fantastic on Friday. And the Yankees just couldn't get out of the way defensively. They make 4 errors on Thursday. They throw the ball around on Saturday. Anthony Volpe's throwing to second, and he's playing again tonight. But again, he's been a mess. They bench him the last couple of days, and they make a case they should bench a little bit longer because Caballero's the better shortstop.
Yeah, that was something.
If you want to win right now, like, stop coddling Anthony Volpe. And I saw the Yankees do this tonight. Cody Bellinger makes a lapse in the field where he doesn't show enough urgency, and Boone's talking to him in the dugout. But you never see Boone talk to Volpe in the dugout. Like, to me, that's ridiculous. So, but I got to give the Red Sox credit. Jaron Duran hit a home run the other night. He's heating up. And their bullpen is pretty good. When you look at Justin Wilson, Greg Weisser, Aroldis Chapman's been the best reliever in baseball, arguably, this year. And he's 37 years old. This guy quit on the Yankees a couple of years ago when he wasn't the closer in the postseason. And he has refound his stuff. That is a dangerous combination. Aroldis Chapman is going to keep doing this the rest of the year. So, to me, got to give some credit to the Red Sox. And remember, they traded their best player away. And Craig Breslow said they'd be better for it, and everyone said he was crazy. Maybe he wasn't. So I'm going to give some to the Red Sox. And last who's hot for me, Bubba Chandler. Now, I didn't like that the Pirates used him as a bulk reliever. I thought that was weak. I think Bubba Chandler should start at this point because, again, what are the Pirates playing for? But he was fantastic the other day. And if you're talking about Skeens, Chandler, Jones when he's healthy, maybe Seth Hernandez in a couple of years, there's a pathway for the Pirates to get back in if they can just get some offense. So Chandler to me would be another one. I guess who's not for me would probably be Cleveland. We knew Cleveland would fade a little bit. The Guardians are 5.5 back. They've lost 8 of their last 10. And this is a big week for Cleveland. Like, their next 6 games after tomorrow. Seattle at home for 3. If the Mariners win one of those games, they win the tiebreaker. And Boston for 3. If the Guardians have a bad 6 games, their season's over. So I know that they didn't have Class A. I know they didn't have Ortiz. But that's one I would look at with Cleveland. And then who's not in the National League, I am going to go with – this is a tough one. I'm going to go with the Braves still. I think it's – maybe not. I think you look at the NL right now. I'm going to go with Milwaukee actually a little bit. Brewers, I think, are getting a lot of love. But you look at that NL Central now, Ralph. They have gone for – it was a 9-game lead a few weeks, like a week or so ago. That lead is down to almost 5. Now, that's going to probably stay if Milwaukee holds on tonight, but they had lost 6 of their last 10. That whole NL Central outside of the Cubs and weekend, the Cubs have played well. They've won 8 of 10. Kyle Tucker looks right. So I guess I would go to the Brewers for that, but that's a really not as low on the who's not meter.
I came up with 2 teams for who's not. and they're both vying versus each other for the division. It'll be the Astros and the Mariners. It seems like both of them are they've hit a little bit of a skid lately. I think I saw where the Mariners have lost like 11 out of their last 17, and I know they had left New York. They had gotten swept, and then got swept versus the next team that they played. Oh boy, I think. And Hensley just gave up a 2-run homer, and the game is tied. Okay. Anyway, getting back to the and then the Astros, who are in the lead, they could have really distanced themselves for first place, and they're not. The Mariners are still right there with them. So, yeah, I would go with those two teams as who's not.
Yeah, Houston, I could see they did lose 2 or 3 in a row at home a couple weeks ago. They got swept by the Tigers in the series. They got outscored 18-3 last week. They did beat Baltimore 3 out of 4. But as you said tonight, you have your ace in the mound against the Rockies, and Hunter Brown did not have his stuff. It's got to kind of probably really hurt the Rangers that Houston's a little bit cold, Seattle's a little bit cold, and they can't catch up. As I mentioned at the lead of the show, Nate Eovaldi's done for the year. So losing your ace in a big spot, and Texas right now is 7 back in the West. I don't really see a path for them to get back in that race, especially with their inconsistent offense. So you're definitely right on the who's not factor. And that's another reason, like you said, why Ryan Helsley should not get music before the 8th inning. No reliever should get music unless you're the closer. I want to sign that unwritten rule and put it in papers, like put it on pen to paper somewhere.
Put him on the who's not even close to being hot list. This guy's terrible. Just gave up a 2-run bomb to Harrison Bader. I think it went in the second deck. Oh, my God.
Former Met Harrison Bader coming back to haunt the
we'll
get another update on that a little bit later.
Yeah, he's now I think he's now 10 for 19 versus them this year. Because he played against them with the Twins already when he was on the Twins.
So let's look at some series to watch over the weekend. And when I go into our last primetime preview this week, it's not a really great slate. There's a decent handful of series that stand out. I don't know, Ralph, you want to touch on one of these? I'll just throw a couple of them out there and you pick which stands to you. No official order. Milwaukee, Toronto. I mean, if that was the World Series, that's kind of weird, but it's fun. I'm going to call that the Paul Molitor series, maybe.
There you go.
That could be fun. Tigers, Royals again, but again, KC fading, and then Seattle, Cleveland, like I mentioned earlier. But this slate for the end of August, like we mentioned, is kind of weak.
Yeah, I think that matchup would probably be the best, the first one there. Like you said, it could maybe that is a preview to a World Series. And Toronto and Milwaukee. Milwaukee was on fire. I mean, they came back to earth a little bit past couple of weeks. And Toronto is steady along playing. They're winning their games. They're winning their series. And, they're staying right there. So that would be a good series. Where's the game? Where is the games being played? Toronto?
That'll be in Toronto. Shane Bieber starts on Friday. Bieber was really good the other day. If Shane Bieber is what he was in Cleveland to some extent, you look at a Toronto rotation with Barrios, with Scherzer, with Gausman, with Bieber, with Bassett. That's a really good 5 that can go against anybody in the American League.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt.
So that would be one for me. If I had to go another one, and I think it's just because we look at the standings and how decently important it is. It's kind of a last stand for St. Louis. They're 3 games behind the Reds in terms of getting near that wild card spot. The Cardinals are in Cincinnati this weekend. So this is definitely a chance to make up some ground for them. Of course, they don't have Wilson Contreras, as we mentioned at the top of the show, a 6-game suspension, taking one of your better hitters out of the lineup and now playing a man down. Is Matthew Liberatore against Zach Littell on Friday, McGreevy against Abbott on Saturday, and then on Sunday, have anybody for Sunday? Nobody yet for Sunday, but it's a noon game. I guess that's the Roku game on Sunday. So Cardinals need this series, and the Reds, we're going to see how the Reds respond. It's not been a good time out in Los Angeles so far, and they've lost 6 out of 10, and when they've had a chance to really gain some ground, I know they got Terry Francona, but they, as a young team, they really need to start racking up some wins and put more pressure on the Mets to try to get that last spot. So a chance for them to gain some separation on St. Louis. And remember, we look at divisional tiebreakers as kind of the end-all, be-all in terms of there's no more like game 163s. So we really need to get those head-to-head tiebreakers. And if we look real quick at Cincinnati, I want to just see what their head-to-head is against St. Louis. Because the Cardinals have been a weird team. They've just hung around all season long, and they haven't been bad. They've been better than expected. They haven't been great. Against the Cardinals this season, the Reds are 3-4. So they have 2 more series up at St. Louis. So the Reds are going to have to start. If they don't win this series, they're in danger of losing the head-to-head with St. Louis. And that's going to be, I think, the only path the Cardinals have to get back in it. So that's your one other one. Like I said, this is a weird weekend for series. I'll just throw a couple of ugly ones out there. Rays, Nationals, Pirates, Red Sox, Padres, Twins, Cubs, Rockies, Orioles, Giants. Here's the thing that hurts for baseball. Their marquee series this week, if Atlanta was healthy, was Braves, Phillies. Yeah. That's what stings, and how bad, both the luck perspective and a skill perspective, how bad Atlanta's season's been this year. Because that's a Sunday night baseball game this week. I think more people who tune in Notre Dame, Miami Sunday night than watching Braves, Phillies.
Yeah, they're not. While you mentioned the Braves, I have a great baseball note that happened last night, and one of the Braves is part of it. So let me just share it with you.
Sure.
So there were 2 players last night with the last name Baldwin to hit a home run in the MLB. It was Drake Baldwin on the Braves and Brooks Baldwin on the White Sox. This is the first time this has ever happened in MLB. But even more that it's the same name, they both hit the home run off a cutter, and they both hit the ball. The home run traveled both over 400 feet. And I was watching the scores scroll across the screen last night. And, they show you who the best hitter was. And I just happened to pick it up. I actually don't really know how I picked it up. It must have been really, paying attention. And I saw Baldwin for the Braves hit a home run. And then when they got to the White Sox score, I saw Baldwin hit a home run for the White Sox. I said, "Oh man, let me check. I gotta go check this out now." Because I'm into that type of stuff, And sure enough, I looked it up today, and that's how it was. It's crazy. Same pitch. They hit the home run off the same pitch. They hit it over 400 feet, and they both have the same last name.
You never know what you're going to see when you go to the ballpark every day. That is the beauty of baseball.
Something like that. Now you could track that every night if they're both playing. See how many times they can do it. The other thing that happened last night. Do you have your parabolic microphone on right now?
My parabolic microphone.
Did you hear about this last night in the Met game?
I did not.
Oh boy, where you been? So the Mets had 2. They call them parabolic microphones, and they're set up. Where the apple is, where the apple comes up when they hit a home run. They're set up on each corner, down on the block towards the stands. So last night, Alec Boehm comes up. It was 3-3, and he hits into a double play, and he starts pointing to the ump, pointing to the microphones. Nobody knows what he's pointing at or what's going on. And finally, they get sense that what he did was he complained that the glare off the microphone was bothering him, but he already hit into the double play. So these microphones, I looked it up. They're used for where the hell is it? Just like sound in the outfield, but they got that name that make it sound like it's real important. It was a 14-minute delay. Like I said, Brome complained about it, and the Mets service crew went out there and they removed the microphones, and the Phillies did not get a hit or score a run after the complaint. The announcers were flipping out. The Met announcers were saying it was the silliest thing they've ever heard. And then after the game, the Philly announcers, they did research on it, and the microphones have been there since 2017. They've been there for 8 years. And this guy, Alec Boehm, is just complaining that he hit into a double play because of the glare off the microphone. Oh, man, your parabolic microphone. They made the MLB news last. They got their MLB news last night. Unbelievable. Like you said, you never know what you'll see at a baseball game.
That is a fact. So one of the things Mike brought up on the show the last couple of weeks here in August, just to get us through the rest of the season, is on this day in baseball history. There's a lot of cool stuff. I know you texted me earlier today, Ralph, that you had a cool one, so I'll let you go first with this one.
Oh, no. What I was texting you was about the Baldwin guys with the home runs.
All right. So I'll throw out one for me. I went back a little bit. We're going to 1980 for this one. The Padres are playing the Mets. Now, both teams are bad in 1980, so it's not about what's on the field. The Padres won 8-6 in 18 innings at Shea.
Okay.
There was a record 10 intentional walks in 18 innings. 10. For the Mets, Claudel Washington was 2 for 2. He had 2 home runs and 3 intentional walks. That's what I call a really good night at the ballpark for those guys. So good throwback 1980s Padres Mets reference.
Padres Mets 19. Wow, that's wild. I remember Claudel Washington. I used to like him a lot. Claudel Washington. So what do you have? 2 home runs and 3 intentional walks.
3 intentional walks. And you had 10 total.
That's some good fantasy stats right there. And 10 intentional walks. I was gonna say, you know who the pitchers were, but I guess it don't matter.
I mean, we'll pull. Well, all right, so we'll pull this up real quick. So I have the box score. All right, so your starter for the Padres, Juan Eichelberger, he went 6 innings. So the Padres only used 6 pitchers that night. Raleigh Fingers blew the save.
Wow.
The Mets used 6. The Mets used 6 pitchers. The starter was Mark Bombach.
Okay, I remember Mark Bombach.
The losing pitcher was Pete Falcone. The winning pitcher, Eric Rasmussen. And the save who got the last out was Dennis Kinney.
I've heard of the Met guys, but I've never heard of the Padre guy. Bombach, I've heard. Bombach was on the Mets. I heard of him. Falcone, I heard he was on the Mets. Pete Falcone used to live in Brooklyn. I remember when I was a kid, we got with that. He used to live in Brooklyn. We went looking to see where he lived, but we could never find him.
So Washington walked 3 times intentionally. Dave Winfield for the Padres got 2 intentional walks. Joe Youngblood had 2 intentional walks. Your pitchers who had them was Neil Allen. Rasmussen had 2. Mike Armstrong had 3 intentional walks in the same game. That was the Padres starter who went 5 innings. So he went from the 12th to the 16th. Didn't allow a run despite walking 4 and striking out 6. He had 3 intentional walks. Next innings, didn't give up a run and went 5 scoreless.
That's wild. Wow.
That's where the man on second people are like, yeah, we need a man on second in the 14th so we could stop all this intentional walk stuff.
Exactly. That
would be the fun part.
Imagine they went back and looked at that and said, yeah, we're going to go do that because of that game. That would be something.
So real quickly, let's go around the diamond. And before we give our final baseball thoughts for the night, I'll give you a quick standings update because we now can do that because we're about a month left. Best to do that. So we'll go division first. AL East, Toronto's got a 4.5 game lead on Boston, 5.5 on the Yankees. The AL Central, Tigers, a 10.5 game lead on the Royals. Essentially magic number watch at this point for Detroit. I don't see how Kansas City catches up at this stage. Cleveland's 12 back. AL West, as you mentioned earlier, Houston a game and a half ahead of Seattle and 7 ahead of Texas. Your wild card right now, Boston's your first wild card, Yankees your second, Seattle's your third, KC's 4 behind Seattle, Texas is 5.5 back, Cleveland is 5.5 back as well. We're going to keep the Rays in here for now, but the Rays are 7 back. They would be kind of off the graphic in about a week or so.
They died out.
National League. Oh, go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. I said Tampa Bay. They died out.
Yep. National League East, Phillies right now 6 up on the Mets. Your NL Central Brewers are 5.5 up on the Cubs. And in the NL West, Dodgers, who did take Padres did take 2 of 3 over LA over the weekend, but the Dodgers still lead by a game and have the head-to-head tiebreaker at the end of the year. So the Dodgers essentially have a 2-game lead on San Diego right now. Your NL wild card, the Cubs are the first wild card, essentially by over San Diego by a few games, and the Mets are your third wild card. Reds 2.5 back, Cardinals are 5.5 back, Diamondbacks are 6.5 back. If you look at the 4 teams, the 5 teams that are behind the Mets, none of them have won more than 4 of their last 10. That's how bad the National League has been over this season, that nobody can get hot, it seems, in the NL. But we got a month to go. You never know. It's crazy things have happened. That's your standings update. We'll do one more quick score look. Yankees with a 5-1 win over the Nats. Twins have scored 4 in the 9th. They lead Toronto 7-4. So good opportunity for Boston and the Yankees to gain a game potentially. Royals have rallied. There was a 4-0 White Sox lead. I say something nice about the White Sox, and it's 4-4 in the 9th. So I feel bad.
Hey, good luck charm there.
But
you're the good luck charm there.
Diamondbacks have cut that lead to 8-6 with Milwaukee in the 7th. Padres have scored 5 in the 1st against Seattle, including a Ramon Laureano grand slam.
Wow.
So not a good start for Luis Castillo and Seattle so far. Cubs, Giants, scoreless. Tigers, A's just got underway, and Reds, Dodgers are scoreless as well. Braves ended up holding on, of course, that 9-run 9th and won 11-2. So real quick, Ralph, what is your Around the Diamond? As you know, it could be anything in baseball you want to talk about. The floor is yours.
I just want to go back to that last segment. I just had something pop up. I looked something up about the this day in baseball. So in 1982, in Pittsburgh, actually, Tony Gwynn broke his wrist diving for a fly ball. He was hitting 271. He was out for 3 weeks. He returned September 13th, and he hit 348 for the rest of the year. But he fell short of the 300 mark for the only time in his career. Interesting, very interesting. Go around the diamond. So basically, I'll start with what you just went over, all those standings. And right now, everything's pretty status quo. I don't think anybody really has a shot at any of the divisions except the Mariners and the Astros. They seem like they're the closest. I don't see anybody else overtaking the leaders. Even my Mets, I don't see them taking over the Phillies. I just hope they keep the playoff spot so they make the playoffs. But I'm interested in Cal Raleigh. I want to see if he like I started when I came on. I want to see if he can catch Judge. That meaning that they brought it up, and he's on a torrid pace. And I would really like to see Paul Skeens win the Cy Young. I think he deserves it. I mean, he was in the Cy Young running last year. I even had him as one of the guys at the Cy Young, and he did get a couple of votes. And he just does not get his due out there playing in Pittsburgh. They don't score for him, and being that I'm the Pittsburgh IESR Pittsburgh reporter, I fell in love with the guy, like I told you on my final show on the Yinzer Report. There, I fell in love with the guy, and I just want all the best for him. I just want all the best for him. So that's basically what I'm looking forward to, and hoping my Mets can make the playoffs and do damage in the playoffs like they did last year.
Yeah, a long way to go. As you mentioned, again, you've got a month left. You never know what can happen. But 2 things I'll bring up. Number one, it was a cool thing out at Red Sox Yankees this past weekend. There's a prospect in Boston. The catcher's last name is Garcia. I'm not going to try to pronounce his first name. His nickname, though, is the Password, which is a pretty if I could get it, I'll try to get you the name. I had the pronunciation. Let's see. Luckily, Baseball Reference gives you the phonetic. It is Jostinson Garcia, JHOSTYNXON. So his nickname is the Password, which is probably one of the coolest nicknames in.
That's great.
Baseball.
That is a great nickname, the Password.
He made his debut against the Yankees. His family could not make it to Yankee Stadium. They were traveling from Venezuela. So what the Red Sox did that was awesome, his brother is a catcher in the Red Sox system. They let him take a couple days off, and he went to Yankee Stadium to watch his brother play, which I thought they flew him up there, everything. So because they figured somebody from his family should be there to take in the moment you're debuting, and I think still arguably the greatest rivalry in baseball when both teams are where they're supposed to be. So really cool family moment. Props to the Red Sox for allowing that. That's a big thing for them. And I'll mention the Braves, but to me, you're going to look tonight at the pitchers, Hurst and Waldrop. Now, the Braves have taken a lot of flack because Sale's been hurt, Schwellenbach's been hurt, Strider's been hurt. It's been a mess of a year. Hurst and Waldrop have been absolutely great for the Braves so far this over this last month. If you go back to August 3rd, he made his debut at that Bristol event in Cincinnati. He's got a .90 ERA over the last 30 innings. And you never know where the Braves seem to find these guys. It is the 8th time in Braves history that a pitcher has had a sub-1 ERA when they throw 30 innings in a month, going back to 2000. So here's the pitchers. Chris Sale last year, Mike Soroka, Shelby Miller, Alex Wood, Chris Medlin, Mike Minor, and a guy by the name of Tom Glavine. So Hurst and Waldrop, who right now number 6 in the Braves system. Again, the Braves are not in contention, so maybe it's a little bit easier to have this kind of a stretch. And again, it's a who's who, but it's not Maddox, Glavine, Smoltz. I mean, Mike Minor had a cup of coffee and some good things, and Flexen had Chris Medlin had a couple of good things. But for Waldrop, I mean, look, the Braves need a future. Schwellenbach's going to come back healthy. Waldrop maybe comes back healthy. Remember, they haven't had Ronaldo Lopez for the year either.
No.
So if the Braves are going to be one of those teams who get some pitchers back next year, and you're feeling good. So props to Hurst and Waldrop. That's a heck of a month. Yeah. And he had a strong outing tonight against Sandy Alcantara to cap off a really good August for him.
Like you said, like they come up with these guys out of nowhere, and they take it, they go with it. That's some stat. And look at the last guy you mentioned, where it went back to Tommy Glavine. I'm surprised you didn't mention Greg Maddux in that list. That guy was unbelievable.
Yeah, it's amazing. Well, Maddux, again, a sub-1. That's, or at least in the ones. I feel like Maddux would get there. But yeah, you're right. Maybe it was more the late 90s with Maddux, because Glavine at least had some stuff in the early 2000s, I think. I'd have to look at Maddox's early decade portion in 2000 for that. Wow, but that's a fair point. I was surprised. Like, it was weird Braves pitchers that were okay. Like Shelby Miller was okay. I couldn't imagine Shelby Miller having as great of a stretch as he did at one point.
I like the kid who's on the injured list now. What's his name? Schwellenbach. What's his name? How do you say it?
Schwellenbach.
Yeah, he's good. He's got the mojo when he's on the mound. That kid. He comes right at you, and he doesn't blink.
So that is our show for this week. Again, fantastic job by my good buddy Ralph Felice, our Pirates insider, our Mets insider, our Lenny Harris of our baseball show. Doing some good stuff. Always filling in. He's that guy we bring in late in the game, but I need a 2-run single to tie it. So it's a lot of fun having him on as we wrap up the month of August here on the show. Hard to believe it again. We only have a few stuff for the regular season. Next week, when you guys are back with you, I'm not here next week. Maybe might turn off again. Who knows? But September will be in full swing. We'll have lots to call up. We will be the most notable players to get called up, and there's only 2 persons. If you can be those guys to get called, get out that going to be fun to watch. We're going to have, of course, getting those road trips ready for next year. I've already got an idea for one of mine. I have to go out to California next year. I'm looking at Dodgers Angels in May. Trying to go see a game out in LA. I'm going to look at those and see who are the teams that are going to be those spoilers. Talking to the Red Sox and the Yankees. The Rockies tonight playing a little spoiler against Hunter Brown and the Astros. That's kind of what they come to baseball. You never know who's the team that's going to ruin your favorite team's season. Just because you're not playing for a playoff spot doesn't mean you're not playing for something. That's what we're going to have some fun with over the next couple of weeks. Again, who's going to have some significant injury? We talked about Zach Wheeler going down, Nathan Eovaldi going down. So many key injuries. You got who survives, who thrives at this point in the season. And now you get those extra roster spots, kind of call off guys that are injured and things like that. We'll have some more on this day in baseball history next week. We'll have our minor league spotlight. Remember, playoffs and minor league baseball just a couple weeks away. We're about a few weeks away from Arizona Fall League rosters as well. So that'll be a lot of fun. In the meantime, follow us on X, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, IE Sports Radio. We'll have some more information on the show, the network, IESportsRadio.com, the place to go. Tune in to me this Friday in the primetime preview. Looking ahead to the weekend in baseball, college football, etc. And tune in Monday. Adam Park and I release a new installment of the Open Series where we will talk about everything going on in sports for Labor Day weekend. Throughout the week, Larry B and all the guys for Radio, Alden K. Have a great rest of your week. Enjoy your Labor Day weekend. And we'll see you back here next week.